Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ikiwa tarehe 24 mwezi wa Safa mwaka wa 1441 sawia na tarehe 23 mwezi wa Oktoba mwaka 2019. Karibu katika Sabah Show awamu ya Business Chat. Na ili kufanikisha kipindi kawaida siku peke yangu, lakini mada yetu ya leo ni kwamba kampuni nyingi zimeweza kufunga na kuenda matawi yao katika mataifa mengine kama vile kampuni ya Energizer, Cadbury Chocolate and many more. Na pia ukiangalia kampuni nyingi zimeweza kutangaza kwamba wataweza kufuta wafanyikazi wao mwaka huu wa 2019, ikiwemo kampuni ya benki ya Stanchart. Pia ukiangalia kampuni ya Finlay ya Flowers wamesema kwamba wataweza kufuta wafanyikazi. Shida iko wapi? Je, ni kwamba uchumi wetu umeweza kuzorota, ama our government policies are not good, ama a business environment is not good enough? Na ili kuweza kufanikisha kipindi hiki, siko peke yangu, niko na Abdul Hakim Kigen ambaye ni economist, ataweza kutuangazia masuala mengi kuhusiana na hiyo, na niko na Mundir Abdurrahman Sheikh ambaye ni research director at UON. Abdurrahman, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very
welcome to Horizon TV.
Thank you so much.
Kigen,
naam.
Mambo. Naona tatabidi sasa unifundishe salamu za kwenu. When we take a look at 2019, more than 5 companies have announced plans to retrench number of employees, to reduce the cost of wages, and maybe to even because they're making less profit. That's what they say. According to CAM, out of 1,000 manufacturing firms, only 240 are planning to take its employees in 2019. Even with the new employment rates in Kenya, are our companies still retrenching companies? Why? Why is that?
Yeah, and you know, it can be categorized into many areas. Yeah. First of all, you know, retrenchment. Yeah, it is a household name for reducing costs. So I believe this. You know, they want to maximize profit. Yeah. Most of the time, because of maybe a competition from outside. Yeah. So they result to reducing the employees. Yeah, the employees. You know, that's maybe the closest they can think of. Yeah, at the moment. Yeah.
Kigen, Kenyans even have a hashtag "I lost my job" on Twitter. How do you feel about it? Why are they just retrenching people?
We have to understand that currently we are in a recession, and it's not just Kenya; it's the whole world. And this thing is it's part of us, part of our policy, and also part of the geopolitical, you know, happenings in this world. And let me start by the geopolitical, you know, happenings, where you find that most of the countries in Kenya, I know I'm going to step on some foot by saying this, but 50% of the trade in Kenya is British. And the reason why I'm saying this is because of the multinationals. Because in Kenya, we didn't build. In Kenya, we received and consumed. And it has become a culture 56 years down the line. You find that most of these multinationals, like James Finlay, that has just closed and 1,000 people will be rendered jobless. You find companies like Unilever. You know, when you consume things like Close-Up, like Omo, Sunlight, Geisha, Lifebuoy, these are all Unilever products. When you go to Procter & Gamble, you consume Pampers, Ariel washing powder, and Gillette. These are British companies. You know, when you go to Nestle, these are all British companies. And these companies, they employ a lot of people in Kenya. And what is happening is we have Brexit in Europe. And Brexit has never negatively affected businesses. And what we are having in Kenya is a ripple effect. You find that these companies, they are listed in the London Stock Exchange. And listed in the London Stock Exchange, you find that due to Brexit, the sterling pound falls. And when the sterling pound falls, the businesses go down. And it's a ripple effect up to Kenya too. That's why you find most of these companies are retrenching people. You know, because honestly speaking, Kenya is British based in terms of business. Another factor is China. China is influencing almost every country in this world. And it is simply this way. It is trading with almost every country. You find, like in America, one of the most valuable company in the world right currently is Apple. And Apple is an American company, but what it does, it produces in China. You find Nike, it is an American company, but it produces in China. So everybody does trade with China. And everybody owes China something, but China owes no one anything. You know, even the US has China's debt. You find that what China had been doing initially, you know, they have this is laid in their strategic plan, and they're sticking to it. It's supposed to run for the next 50 years. You find that they were investing in countries, and in the countries they do exports. So they'll go to a place like Zambia. Zambia is the hub of copper. They'd invest in Zambia, then get copper. Get as much copper as possible, knowing that, you know, copper, at the end of the day, these minerals are finite. They'd go to somewhere like the DRC, they'll get coltan. Every smartphone, you can't have a smartphone without coltan. So they'll get as much coltan as they can. So almost every country in this world were exporting to China. So what China has been doing since 2015 is it has been restructuring. You find that China is now doing the reverse. It has stopped taking exports and is now selling back to people. So you find that if countries were exporting things, the exports now are reduced. The exports being reduced, you find that the companies, they can't produce more, and if they can't produce more, it means they're firing people. Again, we also have our own issues now as Kenyans. We have the issue of, you know, the basics of business is supply and demand, and it's a free economy. If willing buyer, willing seller. You find that we have made business, the government has made business hard. You know, the companies cannot compete. Trust me, Ibtisam, I've never seen an economy so open as the Kenyan economy. Anything can come in. You know, you can't expect the textile industries to survive when you're having second-hand clothes coming in. You're having clothes from China or from Thailand, or materials coming in. You can't expect them to compete because the other ones are coming in at a very cheaper price than we have in Kenya. So, and particularly one thing that almost every company uses is power. And when you come to Kenya, a kilowatt costs 16 shillings. When you go up in Ethiopia, it's 3 shillings. When you go to Uganda, it's 5 shillings. And if I am an investor, why would I come to Kenya? And for those companies that are in Kenya, when you're producing something that is power intensive, and there is one in Uganda at 5 shillings and 3 shillings, of course your output, your cost of production will be higher than the others. So your selling price will be higher than the others. You can't compete, and that's why they're closing down. If you had Mogo, the chair of the Federation of Kenya Employees, she complained that the cost of doing business in Kenya is expensive, especially because of power, and because you wake up today and you have NSSF has been increased, NHIF has been increased, and the employer has to bear all these burdens. So it becomes expensive for Kenyan businesses, and they can't compete.
Yeah, let me jump in.
Yes,
the cost of production, the cost of production, when you look at the cost of production, is very, very high. The President of the United States right now, as we speak, complains about China. You know, the Chinese, what they do is they dump, because maybe there's a small tariff, they dump all their substandard goods. In Kenya, for example, if the United States, which has its own regulation, its rule, Chinese are able to maneuver and get into that market, what do you think of Kenya, which is crumpling with maybe a corruption or something, and competition at stance is very, very high, and sincerely speaking, goods and businesses are going overseas, because of maybe a cost of production. You know, a cost of production, for example, in the production industry. I was reading an article and about the kilowatts, the kilowatt that we're using. For example, an industry is set up in Kenya, then you realize that a kilowatt, for example, a kilowatt as we speak in Kenya, it costs up to from 10 kilowatts to 15 kilowatts. Go to India, 2 to 3 kilowatts. Go to China, the same. Why do you think someone will prefer to stay in Kenya, where he knows, where he knows that these are the kilowatts, these are the instruments that I'm working with? Why should I choose? Give me the reason why I should choose Kenya over China. And the other thing is cost of labor. Cost of labor. For example, now Rwanda as a country is doing very, very good. And cost of labor, very, very regulated, and cheaper, cheaper. So at least they will see, and the other competition from other countries like Egypt. Egypt are doing very, very well in terms of cost of labor and this and in the production side.
If we can just add on that. Earlier this year, we lost some 3 flour companies to Ethiopia. They went to Ethiopia because simply the cost of production, especially with power, was very expensive, and alongside the taxes. So when they went to Ethiopia, but again in the mid this year, we got them back thanks to the political instability that was in Ethiopia. And this just shows you how we are losing business and how people are losing jobs.
When CAM survey shows that manufacturing firms are currently concentrating marketing and sales promotion methods while trying to avoid cost on payrolls, is this playing a part in the wave of retrenchment? Yes, Mr. Munde.
It's very, very critical. Very, very critical. Now with the technology, for example, in the racist parts, when there was not technologies, people used to do logistic work, a lot of logistic work, moving from somewhere to elsewhere. But nowadays, what you realize that, for example, I've set up an industry, for example, When I set up an industry, what I require is marketing. How do I get those marketing? Those marketing, the area of billboards now is long gone. You just use, for example, Twitter, Facebook, to advertise on your things. So the only person, for example, if the company has, maybe because of the dynamics of economics, if, for example, the company had a lot of people who do logistics, who do different kinds of works, then now the company realizes, because of maybe the crumbling of the economy of the country, it wants to maximize the profit. How does it maximize the profit? For example, it can do a small survey to know exactly where the problem is, and it finds that the problem is, for example, it can do a lot with small people who can do advertisement, who know the technical know-how, who can do some small advertisement. Instead of paying all this labor, why don't I just reduce these people, retrench them? I remain with those few people whom I can work with, do the marketing, and that will be I'll be fine to go. That's.
As you said, the companies are
concentrating more on
their labor on marketing and advertising. And this is particularly because when you look at, let's take a typical case. You said a manufacturing company. So a manufacturing company has a lot of people, starting from the people who wash, from the people who do all kinds of jobs. And these people are so many compared to the people today. You just need a five team people of marketing and advertisement. They do social media, they do everything, they do face-to-face advertisements. It's not as much people as the others. And many people have lost jobs because of that, because the only people who are being retained are the sales guys and the advertising guys. I know of companies where especially for those who deal with tangible and durable goods, what they do, they produce intermittently. They produce maybe from January to March, and then they stop. So these people are just coming on short contract that is stamped by, that the employer dictates that if I tell you don't come to work tomorrow, you don't come to work tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, this is business. And at the end of and there is another factor that we cannot rule out. It's technology. If I was hiring 100 people, I just need a machine today that is operated by 2 people, and I replace the 100 people. But coming back to another policy is taxation. Yesterday we saw that the tax the tax which was levied on second-hand goods, second-hand cars particularly, was ruled illegal by the court. The KRA had inflated that tax, and the Association of Car Importers and Sellers, they went to court. These are some of the ways in which the government is, for lack of a better word, frustrating business people. When you increase taxes, the problem becomes your selling price, of course, has to increase. And when your selling price has increased, you cannot compete with other players in the market. And this is not charity, this is business. What do? You close shop and you go home. And that's why people are losing jobs.
Shukrani sana, tupate pumziko, tutarejea baada ya muda usio mrefu. Na mtazamaji, kumbuka unaweza kuchangia katika mada hii yetu leo kupitia mitandao yetu ya kijamii @Horizontv Kenya, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, au unaweza kupiga simu au unaweza kutuma ujumbe mfupi. Tupate pumziko fupi, tutarejea baada ya muda usio mrefu.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Rasulullah, Rasulullah. Akawa Abdul Muttalib ampenda sana Mtume sallam hata kushinda watoto wake. Na Abdul Muttalib, Mtume Muhammad sallam alikuwa ni mjukuu wake. Abu Talib na babake Mtume sallam dimba ndugu, tumbo moja, mama moja, baba moja. Baada ya miaka miwili Abdul Muttalib kufa, alipofika miaka 10 wakaamua kufunga safari kwenda Sham, kwenda kufanya biashara. Faqala rahib, huyu mtoto akifika akionekana dola ya Rum watamuua. Akaamua kurudi kuweza kuishi katika mji wa Makka kwa mara nyingine.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Karibu katika awamu ya pili ya Business Chat. Mada yetu leo ni kwa nini kampuni nyingi zimeweza kuwafuta kazi wafanyakazi wake, na kwa nini kampuni nyingi zimeweza kufunga matawi yake humu nchini na kufungua katika mataifa mengine katika bara la Afrika. Kumbuka unaweza kuchangia katika mada hii kupitia mitandao yetu ya kijamii @Horizontv Kenya, Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Pia unaweza kutuangalia kupitia mitandao yetu ya YouTube, na unaweza kutuma maoni yako kupitia nambari zetu za ujumbe mfupi zilioko katika runinga yako, au unaweza kupiga simu na kuweza kutoa maoni yako. Abdurrahman, I'll start with you. Abubakar was just in the show recently. We've seen several companies, we highlighted it before, like Portland Cement. We have telecom communication companies like Telcom. They're planning also to lay off their staffs. We have Stanbic, we have James Finley, we have so many things. And according to the chairman of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, Patrick Obath, he says that the cost of labor in this country is very high. So the companies are doing a move to lay off their staffs because of this. So what's the effect and impact of retrenchment to the worker, especially if it's not willingly?
The effect can be looked from the organization perspective and from the worker perspective. There are two different things. For example, especially if it's involuntarily, and for example, if there was maybe a coordination, proper communication, then maybe the boss wakes up someday and says within this week there will be a retrenchment. You know, it can bring a lot of anxiety and frustration. For example, if there's no proper communication, everyone within that organization will hesitate. Will you be the one who will be retrenched? And in that it brings a lot of confusion. For example, even the performance will go down within that retrenchment period. And if you look it from the other side, for example, he has retrenched, he has retrenched some workers with no communication, with no maybe packages, then those people who are staying, those people who survive that retrenchment, do you know there will be a lot of uncertainty, yeah, which will be caused because they will be looking at their colleagues who are retrenched from that perspective, and they will be wondering, yeah, if your colleague today has been retrenched, what of you tomorrow? What if another retrenchment comes? So if proper channeling of communication is not followed, proper communication channeling is not followed, you know what happens? What happens is that there will be a lot of confusion, and the performance of that company will go very down. Yeah.
Keegan, what's the impact of retrenchment to the workers and to the companies, especially if it's not voluntary?
There's something in South Africa called black tax, and black tax it's actually in Africa all over, where you have a family member, for example, a nuclear family, and the firstborn has a job, and the firstborn is obligated to pay for the school fees of the rest of the kids, provide for the mother back at home. You know, the firstborn has to parent the whole family and or any other sibling who has sort of made it. And this is the same case in Kenya, where you find somebody who is employed. Most of the times, even they have up to 10 dependents. 10 people who are depending on this person. So you can imagine the ripple effect that goes on when one person is fired in Kenya.
Keegan, let me just hold on for a second. There's a call. Hello? Hello, assalamu alaikum, Horizon TV.
Yes, habari ya leo.
Hello?
Hello, habari ya leo.
Naongea na nani na unapiga kutoka wapi?
Unaongea na Emmanuel. Na napiga kutoka Kitale, Tanzania.
Emmanuel kutoka Kitale. Una swali? Kama unataka kuchangia katika mada yetu ya leo.
Nimetaka tu kupongeza kipindi kwa sababu naona napongeza tu kipindi kwa sababu inakuza vitu zenye tuko nazo kama youth of Kenya.
Asante sana Emmanuel.
Karibu.
Sawa. Emmanuel kutoka Kitale anasema amepongeza kipindi vile kinavyoendelea. Thank you, Keegan. Continue.
As I was saying earlier, the dependency ratio in Kenya is very high. So when you fire one person, I mean, you can imagine the ripple effect that goes to many people who are affected. I don't think any employer sits anywhere feeling right to retrench people. Before an employer retrenches people, that in itself is an indication that he or she is going through a hard time. Because it's not normal to lay off people. It means something somewhere in your business is not right. I don't think the cost of labor in Kenya is expensive. I am of the contrary opinion, because I have seen cases in Kenya where Kenyans are serving in the worst of conditions, in the worst of pays that you can imagine. You know, of course we cannot compare ourselves with fast economies like America, who are struggling to pay $20 per hour. That is impossible in Kenya. But at least we should have some decent pay, and KOTU has always been fighting for this, and I think very many companies are making very big, profits, but they still don't want to give decent pays to their workers. I would say this: the cost of living is also an issue, because you compare even the prices of food in Kenya and the prices of food in Uganda and Kenya, your guess is as good as mine. We should have the cost of living reduced, and when we have the cost of living reduced, we will also have at least a balance between, because before an employer lays off people, it means the employer is not able to pay these people. So when the employer is not able to pay these people, of course, it's going to lay them off. But if the employer is willing to pay these people, it means these people are even satisfied at that pay. So the government also needs to look at policies that addresses the cost of living.
Okay, what's the outcome of the company immediately after its layoff? Because the ones who are remaining will be, the workload will increase. So what else happens, Mr. Munded? Yeah,
and very true, the workload increases. Yeah, for example, you have retrenched people, you remain with a few people. As the manager, you feel like you can assign 4 works to a certain person, which can cause a lot of and a lot of work. Then from that point, this person, you're not looking at the error that he's making, because he's a human being, he's not perfect. there are errors that that person is making, and that error will replicate, and it shows in the result. Yeah, and there's so many things that we can look at. Yeah, for example, the emotional being of that retrenchment comes with a lot of emotions. Yeah, for example, when you retrench people for real, you have retrenched people, then that person who remains at that position doesn't know where to go next. That person will be will be venturing into other, for example, he will be as he works, he will be channeling, he will be doing some networking, because he doesn't know if tomorrow these people who retrench his colleagues will be coming for him.
So he's not sure of his
He's
fate.
not sure of his work. So what does he do? He will be, instead of concentrating on the work, which is a lot of work, because he was assigned maybe 3 to 4 works that he's supposed to do, he will be looking for, and it causes a lot of poor performance. Yeah.
Mr. Kigen, what happens usually in the company when immediately after retrenchment? Confusion, workload, what else?
Yeah, the issue of workload, we cannot overlook that, because when these people are retrenched, the mood is in the companies is like this. You have umeepuka, you know, you've just survived from a retrenchment. So you are able to take on any work that is put before you, because if you don't, you'll go home as well. And when you go home, you can imagine not being able to pay food, not being able to raise rent, not being able to meet your needs. And if you're living in Nairobi, ultimately you have to go back to the countryside. So the fear in the people and the emotions are usually high. So when your boss tells you to stay even for overtime, trust me, you don't have an objection, because you've seen people have gone home and the last thing you want is getting to end month and you're not in the payroll. So that is the problem that we usually have. I would appeal to companies and to KOTU to at this time where we are having retrenchments, that they should really be keen and check, because when people have been retrenched and workload has been increased, you know, it's only fair that their salaries are also topped up a bit, you know, so as to compensate for the more work, because ultimately they'll have to do more work. And also if the companies are going to take up technology to replace the people, then that is okay. So I would really like to appeal to KOTU that they should, their fingers should be on the pulse.
When you compare the number of people being laid off and the number of jobs being created by the government, it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. So what is wrong? What's the problem?
We were told that in the financial year 2016-2017, and coming henceforth up to this financial year, the government has been averagely creating 900,000 jobs per year, and our inflation rate is 9%. No, our unemployment rate is 9%. And currently the Kenyan currency sits at 104 to peg to the dollar. I always think that somebody somewhere in Haile Selassie Avenue is managing our currency. First of all, our currency is not trading as it should, you know, with the market forces of demand and supply. Somebody somewhere is managing it. Same as the unemployment rate. Somebody somewhere is managing it. I think we are not doing, and as far as unemployment rate is concerned, I don't think we are doing anything less than 30% with what I see. The numbers, the almost 1,800,000 jobs that have been created annually, to me they don't reflect. Kwa ground vitu ni different, according to what I understand. And particularly the government has been sabotaging employment. And let me draw a very good example. The government, let me start it from here. The government currently is desperate. The government has borrowed a lot and has misused that money. When you go to Central Park, the opposite, just next to Uhuru Park, there is a big monument that holds a rungu, you know. Do you know that we borrowed for that? In July, the judiciary wanted 200 cars. Guess for how much? For 2.1 billion. They wanted Mercedes E-Class, all of them. And you know, this is what we are borrowing for, and now it's time to repay the loans. The first Eurobond that was borrowed in 2014 matured this year, and we took another one to repay the first one. And the government is now desperate and frustrated on how to repay these loans, because the lenders are now knocking on the doors. And that's why you see the government forced it bundled out the truck drivers and said that all the goods should be ferried by SGR. so that SGR can raise more revenue. And by that you can see that we were discussing last week the unemployment rate that has spiked courtesy of people, of the truck drivers and all the transport industry. And the government is now frustrated, and it has to do all that it can to raise money to repay the debts. And this is simply a policy issue. You know, the government has to fix its priorities, right? Because it cannot kill the citizens at the expense of repaying debts.
Mr. Mundir, when you compare the number of layoffs and the number of jobs created, it's very different. So what is going wrong?
It's very, very different, because the number of layoffs is increasing, yeah, due to maybe the reason that we stated. Now, if we take it from this perspective, yeah, if the government is not even protecting those jobs that exist, do you think it can create another work? Yeah, you know, that's the main thing that we look at. You know, for example, those jobs that are there need to be protected. You know, when they are protected, there's a trickle down effect. For example, those work can create another job so that people will be employed. For example, if those jobs that are there, people are being retrenched, that means unemployment, yeah, is increasing. The rate of unemployment is very, very increasing. Those people who are there will be piling up, yeah. So it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer that these things are not adding up, because they should be moving in a certain direction. If we are creating a job, we are creating a job so that this job can create another job, because maybe they are opening another branches. When we open another branches, we need another employers. For example, we employ them. When we employ them, that's how we go. But if you are not even protecting those that already exist, do you think it's not even adding up?
Kigen, I'll come to you in a few seconds. Na mtazamaji, tupate pumziko fupi, tarejea baada muda usiokuwa mrefu. Kumbuka unaweza kuchangia katika mada yetu ya leo kupitia nambari zetu za simu zilioko katika runinga zako. Unaweza kutuma ujumbe fupi, au unaweza hata wasiliana nasi kupitia mitandao yetu ya kijamii @Horizontv Kenya, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Tupate pumziko fupi, tarejea baada muda usiokuwa mrefu.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
How come Muslim men and women are not allowed to shake hands? Now, Muslim men and women are not supposed to shake hands because it is prohibited in the religion of Islam. And of course, as we said, this whole aspect, the hijab, the free mixing are all related. Therefore, we are not allowed to shake hands unless we are shaking hands with our mahrams, and that is to minimize fitna and, of course, to minimize anything that would come with the shaking of hands. Now, may I just mention that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited zina, fornication, adultery, whichever we want to look at it, he did not just say do not commit, he said do not go near. And one of the things that would take us near zina is, of course, shaking hands, the eye contact, and the other issues that we've been taught. And it has been reported authentically that Rasulullah ﷺ said it is better for a woman, actually, for a man to hold a hot coal. And of course, we have incidents where there are those who've been asked, if you have to hold a woman's hand, then it's better you hold a hot coal than to hold her hand. So because of the fitna and what will come after that, we are not allowed to shake hands.
Quote of the day. Uthman bin Affan radiyallahu anhu said, "He who makes the book of Allah as his guide would remain safe from sin, and he would be counted among the best of men."
Horizontv, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Karibu katika awamu yetu ya tatu na ya mwisho ya business. Na tumeweza kuongea mengi kuhusiana na kampuni mbalimbali kuweza kufunga matawi yake humu nchini na wengine kuweza kufutwa kazi. Tukiendelea na mada yetu, Kigen, nilikukat short before the break, so you can continue.
I wanted to just say how, you know, the government has an obligation of not just taking taxes from companies and businesses. It also has an obligation to protect them and to care what is happening with this company, because at the end of the day these companies are employers and they are also revenue to the government, so they hold a very vital part of the economy. Looking at Airtel, in 2018 Airtel registered a loss of 2.8 billion. You know, that is not joke money, and Airtel is still hanging on to the market. That shows you the resilience that Airtel has. The government should not just be taxing Airtel and other companies, it should also be looking at these companies. You know, when you start making loss and loss and loss and loss consistently, the thing that you're going to do is you're going to exit the market. So the government should come up with a policy and really be concerned to see what can we do, for example, with Airtel, so that, you know, they cannot exit the market. Because looking at Safaricom is a monopoly, registering profits of up to 60 billion. Airtel is making a loss of 2 billion. And the government has 35% of Safaricom, and Safaricom is a monopoly. So the government should also try and see how these companies can compete favorably. The government, yes, there is a merger with Telkom, but then I don't see if the merger is really going to make a big impact, because looking at Safaricom, it has 31 million subscribers, and when you merge both Telkom and Airtel, it's only going to have 17.5 million subscribers. That's almost half. Still a lot has to be done. So the government should check these companies and really understand their welfare, because it's not just good that they are making losses and exiting the market.
When you look at the banking industry, there has been an increase of layoffs, but the bonus paid to the senior staff has increased. It's not only banking industry, so many industries. It's the same thing happening. Why is this so, Mr. Mundet?
Thank you so much. You know, when retrenchments are happening, yeah, most of the companies look at something called LIFO, yeah, last come, first out. When you join the company, for example, you have been working for almost 1 year or 2 years, for example. The manager has been there working for almost 20 years. He has the experience. So if retrenchments are coming, obviously the person they will come for is that person who just joined 1 year ago, 2 years ago, who has no experience whatsoever. You'll just leave. You know, maybe because of the infrastructure, maybe there's a technology. That's why maybe they realize that we'll not be needing salespeople or marketing people, because we can do marketing through Facebook or something. Those money they at least they got from, instead of paying these people the money that they saved, they increase themselves because they are greedy. You know, that's what happens when retrenchment happens. Retrenchment happens for a reason, maybe for a competition or technology. Yeah, those people who used to, what can I call them, subscribers. Yeah, those the customers see those people as very greedy people, because they are taking a lot of money. They're increasing their bonuses. Maybe the customer don't care. They look at it from this perspective of that these big bosses added their bonuses and retrenched those people who are not experienced.
Mr. Yes.
You know, the banking sector is quite a peculiar case, because what happens, those guys run with targets, you know, especially quarterly targets. So and once the managers reach their branch and regional targets, they get their bonuses. So it doesn't matter if you are retrenched or not. If these guys just hit their targets with no matter how many people they have, legally or illegally, they'll still get their bonuses. And we saw massive layoffs in 2016 and 2017 when the interest cap was put. And as we have seen, even the interest cap has not been healthy to the economy in itself, because what happens is that the percentage which was set by the CBK has not been able to meet the market risks. Because what they used to do, they weren't pricing everybody at the same place. Because if you're an individual, they'd price you at maybe 20%, and for another, for example, a government, they'd even give the government a loan at 10%, because the risk rate are not the same. So that's why you see today the banks are only lending to the government. You know, the Ukuri attorney just goes to Upper Hill, gets to Equity or to KCB, to the reception, he just smiles and they ask him how much, and he's given. But for SMEs, young businesses, they can't access capital because their risks are higher. And we found that they are not getting loans at the end of the day as they were initially, and that contracts growth. And also a lot of SMEs have closed down, not just these big companies. And this takes us back to the government's policy. I always say it rests with the government policy. And I always tell Kenyans not to joke with politics, because politics defines policy.
Has the government failed its citizen? Because we've seen that it promised to create jobs, it failed. It even failed to sustain those who were employed. Has the government failed its citizens, Mr. Mundet?
Yeah, and the government has failed in its citizens very, very well, and that's very, very astonishing. Yeah, you can date back to our education system. You know, our education system, to be sincere, is very flop, very, very flop. You know, we want an education system that encourages talents. You know,
like CBC.
Yeah, very, very encouraging talents. Yeah, exhibiting talent, showing talent. An education system which has a technical. Nowadays we are going towards technical because we need skills. Yeah, there are small jobs. Unemployment can be reduced because we need skills. We need manpower. Yeah, you realize plumbers, for example, yeah, and other jobs, they are paying very well. Instead of, for example, going to office being given 30,000, 20,000, laughing about it. You can earn 1,000, 2,000 through maybe your skills. For example, you can go to graphic designs, yeah, because we are going towards technology, graphic designs and other skills that are coming up. So the government, in its part, is not encouraging skill work-based kind of education system. Our education system is 844, yeah. Although now we are saying that we are moving towards
CBC.
And it's not coming, yeah. We'll be ending our 10th year, 20th year, just saying that we are changing our education system, and it's not coming. So we can continue like that, yeah. An 844 system.
Let me pause for a second. There's a call. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, Horizon TV.
Alaikum salam. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Am I speaking to?
I'm very fine. My name is Nuh Musa.
Who am I speaking to?
Yeah, you're speaking to Nuh.
Punguza sauti yako ya TV naomba. Alafu tuendelee.
So I'd like to just make a contribution about today's discussion.
Go ahead.
And first and foremost, I would like to pass my greetings to the two gentlemen. They have been instrumental about the topic.
Thank you.
Yeah, and with regards to today's topic, and I have to be honest, we as the youth of this country, we are very much frustrated. It's not a surprise that the level of people taking their own lives among the youth is on the rise. And this employment issue is one of the major contributions. And so the solution should be really have a joint, what we call a joint discussion between the youth and the government. And the government should really take the lead.
Okay.
So they're sleeping on their job. Their role is to actually facilitate what we call trade facilitation.
Shukran sana kwa maoni yako. Kumbuka pia unaweza kupiga simu na kuweza kuchangia katika mada yako. You can continue, Mr. Mundere.
Yeah, and our education system, we need to revise our education system, and it's very well that the government now has realized that our education system is not going as it's supposed to be, and an education system filled with career path. Yeah, at the end of that education system, at least you know these are the directions that you're going. And we also need some awareness. For example, people nowadays are taking any course, for example, unrelated course. Yeah, and at the end of that course, you realize that you don't have that technical know-how. From graduating, you don't know even where you're going, for example. Yeah, then now that's the place that you go stranded, and you'll have nini.
The government has created employment, but of course it hasn't created employment, consistent with the kind of unemployment rate that we have in Kenya. The government creates employment through government expenditure. When the government decides to set up a project of creating a road, guys will get jobs by working, at the roadside there. And that is how the government creates jobs. But I don't think the government really even needs to measure on that. The government, first of all, needs to, number one, come up with projects that will create jobs, of course. And number two, most importantly, the government just needs to create an enabling environment for companies and businesses and entrepreneurs to operate in this country, because that is where a lot of jobs are being created. Because now, if the cost of production, if a lot of taxes are being put, unwarranted, some of them, the government, as I've said, is frustrated on paying its debts, and that's why it's imposing taxes everywhere. And this, it goes contrary with creating an enabling environment for this, for business to happen. Because ultimately the government can do so little when it comes to employment. The SMEs, the companies, entrepreneurs, they are the ones who employ people even more. So the government should really watch on that. And I think the government, if the government is to convince me right now that it's doing something, it should renegotiate on the debts, on the terms of repayments and the interest rates. It should work on that, especially on the timelines of repaying the debts. They should go and sit down again with the lenders and say, we are not able to pay now, let's focus on this, so that it can reduce the pressure and the frustration that it's going through right now.
What the government can do, the government has a role, in creating employment. For example, there are policies that they can set in such a way that at least we can have the economy, for example, flourishing. An example, a government needs to assure me as a business person why I should commit my money, for example, my capital in a certain area, so that at least at the end of that it shows my productivity, it shows my profitability. The government also can do, for example, the interest capping, the interest capping that came with a lot of shortcomings, Even now they want to revisit. Why do they want to revisit? Because they have not done a proper planning. A proper planning was missing. For example, a 14% interest. People don't see the need of borrowing loans, because at the end of the day, you take a loan because you want to invest in a place, for example. That place that you want to invest in, taking the environment, taking the loan, that place that you want to invest in, if it is not showing the productivity or profitability, why should you invest in that place? Why should you be borrowing loans? The government also, I've done economics, the government also should look at the fiscal and the monetary policy that's working. For example, they can increase the spending. They can reduce the tax rate. Also the interest rate. In that way, people will be very, very encouraged to invest. And also the government also can, if I want to establish my business, for example, in Kenya, I should be protected from unfair tradings. For example, the substandard goods. For example, I want to venture into, for example, an African attire or an African thing, yeah, and they are cheap things that are coming from overseas, maneuvering and getting into the country. People at the end of the day will look at that cheaper things. They don't look, sometimes they don't even look at the quality of things.
Is that the reason why so many international companies like have already exited the market?
Absolutely, absolutely. For example, the Everready, for example, yeah, there are a lot of batteries, substandard batteries that are coming from other countries, for example. Just neighboring countries, even don't go far to China. They were just coming here, yeah. For example, in Egypt, we have talked about the kilowatts, yeah. Just the Everready subsidizes, does something, and then takes its business to Egypt, because Egypt, for example, as an emerging market, is promising. It's a promising, yeah. So those people will take, and they have an option, yeah. As a business person, you have an option. So if the options that are there that you look at are not working well for you, why should you be investing here? Why should you be killing yourself here that you know it is not producing as it's supposed to be here?
Kigen, your parting shots.
First of all, for the Everready issue, that's a different issue, because it's technological. The last mile connectivity by KPLC threw them out, because when you have electricity and you are charging your radio through electricity, you don't need batteries. So that was a pretty much technological issue. But I want to talk to people who are currently employed. I know it's unfortunate that I have to advise you this way, because this should not be the ideal case in Kenya, but you need to diversify your skills. If you are a security guard, at least know how to operate a photocopy machine, so that when your boss is firing and laying off people, he'll see an extra value in you, and it's gonna give him or her another reason to keep you there. But I would like to submit to the government that, go and renegotiate on the terms of these loans, because this is where the source of the problem is. And I'd like to submit to Kenyans finally, don't joke with politics. Politics defines policy.
Final words.
Yeah,
briefly, less than a minute.
Less than a minute, yeah.
Yes.
Those companies that are retrenching people, for example, a lot of retrenchment are coming, yeah. I will advise those companies to look at other options, yeah, before even retrenching those employees, because it comes with a lot of emotions. The hashtag that was trending, I lost my job, came with a lot of emotions. People, even some people were, to be sincerely speaking, some people were even depressed, yeah. Some people even, yeah. So they can look at many other options before settling on retrenchment.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mundir. Thank you so much, Kigen, for coming. Na mtazamaji, tumefika tamati ya kipindi chetu cha Business Chat. Tukutane tena juma lijalo. Kumbuka hapo kesho utaungana na Mariam Mwacharo na Healthy Thursday. Kutoka kwangu naombea maasalam. Nashukuru wote walioweza kufanikisha kipindi hiki.
Assalamu alaikum. Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Sabah Show.